I never seen an amount of pain that wasn't outmatched by the love that we get when we get sober.
If it gets to the point where you can't put it down, but you want to, and it's making you sick, I don't think you can do this by yourself.
When you lose the fear of saying goodbye, you lose the fear of saying hello.
Nothing changes if nothing changes. So we had to change really everything.
Mountainside was the first place I went that they were like, you're gonna die.
You gotta stop using. Yeah.
No, it was just you're gonna die. They said you're in late stage drug addiction and you're gonna die. And I was like, wow.
Welcome to the Sober Spill podcast. I'm your host, Isabel. On this podcast, we have real conversations with people in recovery, their families, and organizations that pertain to this field. Today, I'm here with the host of the clinical side of our podcast, Jana Wu.
Thank you, Isabel. My guests will discuss best clinical practices, new emerging trends in substance use and mental health disorders, and how we can best take care of ourselves and our loved ones in recovery.
See you every Thursday.
And come spill with us soon.
You couldn't keep your apartment, I think. You had said, like, all right, I need some help. But you were only asking because you knew that, like, you were about to get kicked out.
Yeah, I was uncomfortable.
Yeah.
I didn't want to be uncomfortable.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So it was like, oh, Mom, come rescue me. And so I went under the presumption and the agreement that you were coming back with me to Connecticut, and we were going to get you into a sober living situation in the Northeast. Mm-hmm. And when I got there, we were in the hotel and you had changed your mind. You were like, I don't really think I want to come back. I'm not ready. And me realizing, wow, I cannot do this anymore. I can't do this anymore. And me telling you, like, oh, okay, but if I leave, I'm like, you need to know I'm not coming back. I'm never coming back.
Yeah, I think what you told me, the next time, like, I come back will be basically to, like, pick up your body. Because, like, obviously things weren't, I wasn't doing hot. It wasn't doing well.
Yeah. And us, me crying and you kind of sitting there like, when's this going to be over? And you finally, I think you were texting with your boyfriend, and he was just like, just go home and get the help. And so you ultimately agreed to come home. But the second you got home, it was just like, I'm not going anywhere. I brought you to sober living situations in Maine and I think in Rhode Island, and you're like, I'm not going here. And just, me trying to be accommodating to a certain extent. Yeah. But, obviously that wasn't going to work. And me saying, like, okay, the choice is no longer yours. You're going somewhere or you're getting out. Like, you either agree for me to drop you off at a sober home, or we are literally moving your stuff out of the house, and you are out of the house.
Yeah, you said it's like by the end of the week at a certain point.
By Wednesday.
It was like going to a shelter or going somewhere.
Yeah.
And because I'd been getting high the entire time I was at home too. And it's like I didn't want to. I mean, anyone that's like been gets, it's like, I don't want to get, like, I wasn't at a point. Yeah. Even though things are so bad. And that's why it's always when people are like, oh, I haven't hit my bottom, or this is my bottom. I haven't hit my bottom. It's like, it's so relative. Like, there are so many things on paper that should have been okay, I'm done. Like, writing's on the wall, but it wasn't. It's like, it's not, your bottom is when you put down the shovel and you stop digging.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like what they say in the room. And that's like very true for me. So I ended up going up to Maine. Became evident pretty quickly when I was in Maine that things were not going well. I was continuing to use while I was in a sober house. It was conveniently, for my purposes, it was a sober house that was foreclosing. And so they couldn't afford drug tests. Yeah. It was also so cold. It was like no hot water, and it was Maine.
In the winter.
Yeah, it was brutal. But things got pretty bleak for me pretty quickly.
Yeah.
But that was also when you started, like, going more hands off, and you stopped. And this is what I always, like, when I speak at meetings and stuff, like, this was the best thing for me. And I talk about how, like, brave you were to do the stuff you did, when it's like you cut off, like, phone service for me. Like, I didn't have phone. Yeah. And so, like, you letting go of that sense of control that you had, where it's like you no longer could see my location, could see, like, what was going on. because it's, and you've talked about this, where it's like that was a false sense of control. Like you could feel like you knew what was going on because you could see where I was, but like, what does that mean? Like you don't.
It just means we know where your body is.
Yeah, that's all you know.
Yeah.
And so that, and also when things were uncomfortable and like I was getting drug tested and I was worried something, I wouldn't be able to get myself out of this one. I was like, oh, like now maybe I'm ready. And you were like, okay, like find what the local, like the closest shelter is and like pack a bag and go there if you get kicked out. And I was like, come on, you know?
Yeah.
But that's the boundary. Like I needed to not be caught before I fell anymore. Like that wasn't helpful for me. I wasn't uncomfortable enough. It wasn't like I never hit a point where I was just like spiritually bankrupt, because it's like right before I got to that point, I would be rescued to some capacity. And so that was the first time you like let go of the rein, like let me fall. And I'm sure like that was the most selfless thing you could have done. I'm certain that was incredibly scary for you.
It was awful. And I think so this was, I think that this was like the aha moment of the manipulation. And I knew, how manipulative you could be, but this was something that I saw the switch right before my eyes because we were FaceTiming. And you're always very good at apologizing and coming clean about, like, oh, I know I did this and I did that. And you always knew how to back yourself out of things. But you would say the right things and you were crying and we were both crying and you, I'm ready for help and I'm going to get kicked out and me telling you like, okay, like, all right, well, you can go to a shelter and then, we'll figure out from there. And when you realized we weren't coming to rescue you, you turned off the crying right away. And then you were like, like kind of like, just like, all right, whatever. And I remember, it was like that. It was like somebody like threw a ice, bucket of ice water over me. I was like, oh, okay. This is where, and that's when I said, I had told, your dad, like, we need to shut off service for her phone. She's just using it to score drugs.
Essentially, yeah.
Yeah. And he would, and like the thought of like, we won't know where she is. And I'm like, it doesn't matter if we know where she is. We know what she's doing, and I'm not going to help her do that anymore.
Yeah.
Told everybody your ex-boyfriend was planning on going to see you because you had reached out to him. And I said, don't go see her. She's just going to ask you for money. She's looking for, don't give her anything. And, telling your sister, like, you can't talk to her. She needs to get help. And telling you, like, we are here. If you call and you want us to put you back in treatment, we are here for that.
Yeah, anything else, though.
Yeah, other than that, lose my number.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's eventually it got to the point where I reached out and I was ready for treatment. And then you guys came up next day. I remember it was like 10 a.m. Not a morning person, never will be a morning person. And so you knew I couldn't get up to much more mischief before then because I'm not getting up before like 9:30. Like, be so for real. That's what I always say. It's like go to any lengths to get sober. I've never been willing to go to like a morning meeting consistently because of that reason. Like, that is too far. You're asking too much of me.
It's a bridge too far.
Yeah, excuse me. Be so real right now. And so... Yeah, and the manipulation, they talk about that in the big book too, where it's like the Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde thing. Like, they can be great people when they're sober and have all of these things going for them, and then you put the drugs and alcohol in their way, and that's all that matters. And I said this to Lydia too, and I made amends to her, where it's like, I never, like, me choosing drugs all of this time or choosing alcohol, it didn't mean I didn't love you and I didn't care about you. It's like at the time I was sick and that's like the only choice I felt like I had. And it was also tunnel vision. It doesn't mean that I don't care about all these other things or love all these other people. That's just not enough, like when you're an alcoholic. But so I ended up going to treatment, and it was a year-long treatment program. There was another like battle to like get me into treatment, of course, naturally. I don't make things easy. We get it. And when I was there was a lot of options and like resources for families, and you dove headfirst into that.
Oh, for sure.
And
they really encouraged it.
Yeah.
Some of it was required, which I think was excellent because you really, they're like, you're asking her to go to meetings and ask for numbers and talk to strangers and get a sponsor. you guys sit in it for a little bit. And so us being in meetings, and we were required, like, ask 3 people for their number. And it's uncomfortable, right? Like, so stop being like, you just have to do this, if you're not even willing to do this. So for me, I didn't feel right asking you to do any of this stuff if I wasn't willing to do it. And so, I felt like the only way that I can be a parent to an addict was to learn the language and to learn how to take care of myself spiritually, emotionally, and be uncomfortable. Like, and obviously we had been pretty freaking uncomfortable for years, but that was you making us uncomfortable. Like me making myself uncomfortable, which is huge. And my closest friend is always like, oh your journey, you're always making yourself uncomfortable. Oh, you got to grow. Yeah. And that's been like really my journey since all of this, because I feel like all of this has made me a better person. So, going to these meetings and meeting other parents and supporting other parents and talking to other parents and realizing like our story is not unique in any way. You're not special. Mm. I'm not special. Like, this is all pretty textbook. And it's how, they say like nothing changes if nothing changes. So we had to change really everything. And I think the biggest change for me too was, you 6 months into your program and you weren't calling as often, you weren't leaning on us as often. You had case managers and we were required, you had certain rules, and me just always being an open book with your case managers was a big thing that, they taught us about triangulation and how you'd always try, like how an addict will always try and triangulate, a certain, like the people that are authorities in their lives. And I remember you sharing that you had your friend come and pick you up for coffee one day once you had gotten access to a phone, a flip phone, mind you. Mm-hmm. And you sharing that with me and saying, please don't tell, like, I'll get in trouble. And me feeling so bad about it, mm-hmm. but me calling your case manager and saying, hey, by the way, she shared this with me. I told her that I will not lie for her. I've told her I want her to share this with you. Mm-hmm. I'm hoping she does.
I also don't think I got in trouble for that because I don't think I did anything wrong.
I think you got your phone privileges taken away for like a couple of days or something like that.
They wouldn't take away my phone because I had a flip phone, so they felt bad. They're like, you have nothing to lose. Like they would take away the clients that had like smartphones, but they're like, what are you going to do with that? Listen to the radio? Yeah. Like, okay. You're going to play Snake on your flip phone?
Yeah. Like, I don't remember. Yeah, there weren't a lot of repercussions, but you did come clean. Yeah. But only because I said, I'm not, and I lied to you here I am. I'll make amends now. I lied to you. Yeah. I am, your dad says I'm painfully honest, and honest to a fault, if you will. And I had told your case manager about it, but I lied to you about it because I wanted to give you the opportunity to come clean. Mm. And I told you flat out, if she asks me about anything, because we checked in every week, I'm not lying for you. And so I think that was another moment where it was like, okay, you're not going to be able to guilt me into lying for you. Like, oh, I might get in trouble. Like, I made it very clear whose side I was on, and it was on the side of your sobriety and your team who was trying to help you.
What was the day you got sober?
So I called Mountainside and they said, all right, listen, sir, why don't you come next Tuesday? And next Tuesday was September 11, 2001. And my cousin Michael, who's no longer with us because of addiction, he was working in a union in New York, and he said, hey, they're giving out applications. And so I went to New York City on September 11th, and I was like 2 blocks away from the towers. And typical my fashion. There was the primaries in the city that day, elections and stuff. So they don't hand out applications on the day that I showed up. So I was in the wrong place. I was in the right place at the wrong time. And, it was about 9:00 in the morning, and we all know what happened. The first plane hit, and then me and my friend, we jumped in my car, and I wasn't driving it. He was driving it because I had all the DWIs, and I didn't.
So you were there on the ground when the.
I was there. I was 2 blocks away. I didn't
know that.
It was enough. Yeah. So the first plane hit, and then everyone was going wild. And then the second plane hit when we were on the West Side Highway, about to get onto the George Washington Bridge. And the radios, we were listening to Howard Stern, and every radio station was talking about this. It just dominated, And people were panicking. They were just stopped in the West Side Highway, getting out of their cars like it was a parking lot. So we were, it was absolutely insane. And, the radio, there was fighter jets flying up and down the Hudson. Mm-hmm. And they were like, every plane in the sky is a suspect. We were like, whoa,
Yeah.
And the crazy thing is, when I tell my story or I talk about, my sobriety date is 9/11, people think like, oh, he was inspired by the day, because of what happened. And maybe so, but not on the day. My friend asked me, he said, are you still going to rehab today? And my response to him was like, I wish one of these planes would hit the courthouse. Mm. And he's like, come on, man, that's insensitive, But I was so, in my addiction, I was so selfish and I was heartless. But at the end of the day, that day, I went up to the Catskills and my parents drove me over to Mountainside. So I was in abstinence. And when I got here, we get a lot of people from New York, we get a lot of people from Connecticut, a lot of people, it was a ton of New Yorkers here, and they were all devastated. And they were like, do you know what happened? I was like, I was there. They were like, oh my God.
Yeah.
So I was like, I'm hungover. And I was like, listen, I want my room. So I went into the room, and I didn't leave the room for like 5 days just to smoke a cigarette. I was like, they were like, it's the 9/11 guy, And while I was here, I was questioning, what the hell happened to you if you saw something like that and you wouldn't care? Because that's never who I was. I was always a very sensitive and kind and I wasn't cold, but I didn't know how cold I had gotten in my addiction and how heartless I got. By the time I got sober, I was freebasing a lot, smoking crack and smoking cocaine and drinking like a fish and dead ass broke most of the time, because there was a time I used to walk around New York with those big paychecks from civil service. And now it's like, I felt like a bum, So that really bothered me that I should have been more upset because of 9/11.
I think that's a really beautiful sentiment. And it's like so many people can relate to that, where our drinking takes us so far away from the person that we are and like our values. I know I'm a highly sensitive person. Like I started almost crying just thinking about, the capacity for human suffering is so hard for me to wrap my head around. But yeah, it takes you so far away from who you are. And you're a very like sensitive, safe place for a lot of people.
I was devastated that I could say that to him. And I was like, God, because if I didn't schedule to come here that day, I would have been drunk by the end of that night and the next few days, and I wouldn't have cared.
I feel like our eyes are both wet. Should we just start crying together right now? This is why we get along so well.
I want to get made fun of for the rest of my life. No, I'm kidding. No, I have no problem crying. And the truth is, like, I remember sitting here in Mountainside thinking, is this what happened? Did I break my soul? Am I that far gone? And I remember Bruce Drever, I was talking to him about it. And he said, I never seen an amount of pain that wasn't outmatched by the love that we get when we get sober.
You've said that to me before. I've always really loved that.
And man, I was sitting there going, I hope that's true. Because I don't want to, I'm a deadhead, man. Like, we're kindness, love, peace, and that's who I've always been, you know what I mean? I was raised by a New York City homicide detective, so there's an edge to some of it.
Of course.
I'll hug you after I have to smack you around a little bit if I have to. But I'm teasing. But I was, it disturbed me to react that way. That's not who I am.
And when did you notice yourself starting to become soft again? Soft in like a positive way. Like, I think that's a beautiful way to be.
Well, it took a long time. Because when I was here, I was aggressive. You know what I mean? And they let me stay here for a long time. They were amazing to me. And the Mountainside is just a beautiful place to heal. You know what I mean? And they didn't push anything on me. Like, I remember I told Bruce Drever I couldn't sleep. And I was out of, I had no benefits, so that, nobody was buying me medication. I said, I can't afford medication, this was a cash place, and I barely squeaked in. And he said, didn't you get a big book on Friday night? And I said, yeah. He goes, that's the best sedative in the house. He goes, if anything will put you to sleep, it'll be that book, which I haven't, saved my life, but it was a good joke. Like, he's a guy who loves AA, teasing me about how boring the big book is. And I like that, And the truth is, like, I would do the yoga stuff and the wellness stuff and go on the hikes. And when I would be in treatment before, if somebody broke out any 12-step stuff, my debate would be there. But here I was in such a mellow mood from the activities that I was like, let me just, and it started making sense, and the truth is I could see the big book in the way that these guys were acting before I read it. Because Bruce was so kind and so, he was tough, but he was fair, and he would tell stories about who he was and not who he was now. Like, when these guys would share about themselves, I'd be like, geez, that doesn't look like them at all. They were like the most beautiful, kind, happiest people, and they'd share that they were in hell, and it looked good to me. And then when we would read the book, I would be like, what we're talking about in this book is what happened to their lives, so I was like, not to get too 12-step big book guru, but when Bill Wilson says, would I have what I saw in my friend? Of course I would. Of course I'd have it. And the condition I was in when I came here, would I have what I saw in Big Dave? Just laughing, just loving life. I would have taken a quarter of what he had. It was so much better than what I had. And what everything that anyone ever told me about this life is it has come true like tenfold. You know what I mean? Like, getting sober is like the single greatest event of my life. Because it's enriched all the other events. Like, I met my wife, Rachel, who I call B. Getting married to her was like one of the happiest days, But it's because I got sober that I could 100% be there for somebody else. Like when, I'm kind of nuts. She knows exactly what she's getting because my life demands honesty, and you could, and then we have Jeremiah and Nora, our two kids, and they were raised, because my wife is in recovery as well, they were raised in a sober house.
And they're wonderful kids. I'm a big fan of both of them.
I've been taking my kids to Grateful Dead shows since they were like, Nora was like 6, Jeremiah was like 6, and my wife and Rachel was like, you think this is a good idea to take Nora to Citi Field to see the Grateful Dead with Dead and Company? And I said, I don't know. We're going to find out if it is or not. And it was a good idea. It was the greatest time. And then I remember I was at a Wharf Rat meeting with Jeremiah one time, and he's 6 years old, and I'm talking to the wharf rats, and this little guy comes up in a tie-dye, and he yanks my shirt, and he goes, "Hey, Dad." I go, "What's up, dude?" He goes, "Am I an alcoholic?" And I go, "No." And he goes, "Damn it." And then my wharf rat alcoholic friends are hysterical. And I said, "Dude, that's not a great thing, you know?" He goes, he's looking at me like, "What do you mean? You guys are awesome." And 2 minutes later, he yanks on my shirt, and I go, "What's up?" And he goes, "Am I in recovery?" And I go, "Yes." And he goes, "Yeah." So he grabs the balloon and he goes, "My name's Jeremiah and I have 6 years."
That's
and
so
there
funny.
was like 50 wharf rats go, "Yeah." So, it was great.
I know so many AA kids, like kids of parents who make that joke where they're like, "Well, I'm 12 years sober."
Yeah.
I always think, and I always get a kick out of it.
Well, I mean, listen, in my house, there's no stigma. My kids have no judgment on an addict or an alcoholic, because some of the most beautiful, kindest people in the world have this thing. We know that. And when they get sober, they're alive and well and healing, and there's a gratitude about them. And it's weird. Like, if I didn't grow, it was such a difficult thing for me to get sober because of the stigma. Because being Irish, not just being Irish, but like there's a lot of drinking. Not even alcoholic drinking, just good time drinking. Like, we celebrate. An Irish wake looks like an Irish wedding. The wake, there's one less person drinking, and we party for any occasion. We have a good time. Now, my drinking wasn't like theirs. It was like that times 10. And if this is the way I told my wife one time, because I would take the kids to meetings, and it was because I had to go. And I said, well, this is the deal. If they have this problem, because it does get passed down, they, instead of battling it, they would probably be easy for them to say, well, I'll just get sober, like everyone else I knew growing up. Like, I don't know that this thing that saved my life and her life should be hidden and not talked about in our house because of our kids. And, I don't go into details, but they know that there was a time when I struggled with substances. And the most important thing in my life is the fact that I am recovered from that. I'm a person in recovery, and they know that I spend my life, I've dedicated my life to helping people get sober. When I'm doing a group in Mountainside, I tell the clients, I was like, I'm going to be doing this on the ride home. And I'll be doing this tonight at 8:00, and I'll probably be doing it tonight at like 9:30 when I'm not getting paid. I just do it, I love meeting people that are, I love addicts and alcoholics. I love them. And I think people that are sober, we are like divinely and appointed to help them, because the identification you make when somebody, I got sober because I could identify with these guys' past, and they were showing me what their present was like. If I didn't have an identification, I would have just thought they were, but I identified where they came from, and it made me interested.
Did you see how your parents at the time changed through just as you changed, by the time you're 24 to the time you're 35, did you see them change in their relationship with this?
Definitely. But they kind of did what's suggested of parents, which has nothing to do with the addict. They kind of took care of themselves. Mm-hmm. They went to Families Anonymous. They joined a gay square dancing group called the Times Squares and square danced their life away.
That's great.
They kind of
that part, but yeah.
I mean, I often joke on the show that my parents were responsible for my heroin addiction, but it's only partly a joke. You know what I mean? It's like they weren't really paying attention to what I was doing when I was using, before they knew, and they really weren't paying attention to what I was doing after they knew. But they were taking care of themselves, so they weren't suffering because of my addiction.
Do you think, when you look back on it, did you have other expectations of them, to somehow be your cheerleader for this, or take care of you, or rescue you? So it wasn't like that.
No, I didn't. It's just after the fact when you hear all these stories. And to be truthful, I love having my dad on the show because I love,
Your dad. I
What?
mean,
I love
you
him.
definitely have a beautiful relationship with him.
but I love like telling him what a horrible father he was. Even though he was a great father, he did his best. But I get this great sick pleasure at needling him about certain things. And like, it's probably not fair of me because like my friends, like, I don't know how your parents were. My friends, like, their parents thought the best of my friends. They were so excited for everything they did. My parents, like, didn't care what I did.
Do you know that to be true, or is it just maybe they have like less like affect? Like maybe they did care and they were quite proud of you. I mean, it sounds like when you were younger, they obviously were. They were
No,
like, he's going to go to Harvard.
When
you know?
before I was a person, there was like this idea of me because of the school I was in. Once I became kind of an adolescent, I was like, just like a manipulator. And I don't like, my mom thought I'd be a good salesman. Like, and then when I was a TV producer, and I don't want to hold on to resentment. My parents did the best they could, but reality is reality. You know what I'm saying? Like, I know they were part of the story of me becoming a heroin addict, but they are not responsible for me becoming a heroin addict. And I love my parents, and my dad is like the greatest thing in the world. So I do not want to paint this horror show picture.
No. So when you were going through this, like in and out then of treatment, like getting sober, going on methadone, moving cross country, all the things, were you like just like calling them occasionally, or what was your relationship like?
No, I was calling them. I was close with them, even though it was so broken. You know, I talked to them at least weekly, and I only came home from California because my mom told me she had gotten leukemia. I was on 150 milligrams of methadone. I was unemployed for 7 years. I was living with a girlfriend who was paying for everything in Los Angeles, and my mom told me she had leukemia. And that's when I started tapering off methadone, and I moved home probably 10 months later, and I was with her when she died. And
Did you move home to take care of her, or just like to be there?
I moved home because I could not live with the idea of being in LA on methadone, doing nothing while she died. I refused to do that. And when I came home, I wasn't like sober, happy, joyous, and free and productive, but I had just gotten my job at Katz's when I came home, and I was present, and I visited her in the hospital, and I visited her upstate, and she told me she thought she was going to die very soon. Then I was living in Vermont for a minute, and then I moved to Manhattan, and just to kind of be around. And then she took a bad turn and wound up in NYU hospital, and I was working at Katz's, and just being there, even though I wasn't sober and I didn't really have my shit together, having a job and being able to sit with her and not be totally wasted was like just an amazing outcome.
Yes. Did you have to watch her go through treatment and everything? Did she do chemo or radiation?
She did everything, but nothing really worked, and she died really fast. She died probably 30 months after she got the first diagnosis. So it was maybe even less. It was, and I was on drugs, so it was all very much a blur. But if I had stayed in LA and I stayed totally out there, it would have been very hard to live with.
Yeah, you made the right decision at the time, definitely. Did you ever have a moment after that when you got sober where like you could really feel it, like the grief?
With my mother, the deepest grief I felt was right when she died, and I called one of my oldest friends to tell him, because he had been close with her, and I just broke down. And then after that, I think I didn't get sober then. I didn't get sober for another 6 years or something. And I had a kid, and I wasn't sober. And I was just trying to like hold it together. And by the time I got sober, there was no grief anymore. It was more just living with it. And it's kind of one of those things in my head where I don't know what happened. You know what I mean? Like, we were talking about memory and stuff. My mom loved me. I love my mother. It wasn't a perfect relationship. I have weird resentments about it, but I wish I had a better feeling. I don't know. Like, I wish I felt better about it deep down.
But it sounds like you do feel good about your decision. Like, there was definitely a part of you that knew to get out of LA and come back home.
I wouldn't be. Oh yeah, that's one of my favorite things that I ever got to do. I wouldn't be surprised if I processed this information like this to keep myself from feeling the pain of her being gone. Just sitting here talking.
I don't feel your pain. I would never say that. But I mean, cancer's so brutal and it's so painful to watch. I mean, you love, truly not have control. Like that's truly powerless.
It's interesting though, because I've never even made that connection of why I deal with it the way that I deal with it until I'm just sitting here trying to sweep all this stuff under the rug. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Although when she was dying, they gave her a ton of Dilaudid.
I was going to ask, but I didn't want to.
They gave her a ton of Dilaudid, and I would sit with her, and she got super high, and she was like, she laughed with me, and she was just like,
is this what you like?
Yeah, exactly.
Is this what it's like?
Yeah.
Could you laugh with her about it?
Yeah, I totally could. Because I like to see her feel good in that moment. And again, like...
Can I ask, did you ever take her meds, like fentanyl patches or anything?
I never got to do fentanyl, ever. Remember what?
Okay, never got the way you say, never got.
Well, Chris and I would talk about that.
Yeah.
Say you died.
Yeah.
With my mom, she got a bunch of Percocet, and after she died, I went into her, I don't know, it was like a bag full of drugs, and I took the Percocets. And then my sister came to clean out her apartment and found the bag of drugs. And I think she had 2 bottles of it because they found the other bottle, and she didn't know that I had taken the Percocet. So I got away with it. And I was very happy and grateful to have gotten away with it. Should I feel guilty? Are you trying to make me feel guilty?
Definitely not trying, but I just think it's one of those things that many people can relate to. I mean, I was a hospice volunteer for a long time, and one of the big protocols in a hospice social worker is making sure the medications are all taken. It's one of the big things that we're very aware of now in that community, because people are in immense pain. They're watching someone they love die and struggle and be in physical pain. It's really hard for us to watch someone in physical pain. So a lot of family members try to take the meds. So, and honestly, I felt I shouldn't say it, but like employees too. So yeah, so there's a really good protocol nowadays about making sure all the meds are disposed of properly. I have so many questions too. I get stuck on details. I'm like, oh my God, what happened to the girlfriend in LA? Do you guys ever like did you message and like do you ever text each other or Instagram? Like, just like a technology connect. I feel like that's
not much. Not much.
I mean, vaguely, can you share like where she is in the world? Like, did she move on from you? And did you ever pay her back?
No, I never paid her back.
I'm not trying to make you feel guilty.
I don't feel guilty. What happened was, it's a very messed up story, to be honest.
Do you want to share it or no? I mean,
I don't mind sharing it. It's like, I feel like it's more important to be transparent than anything else, because like, I don't know. I've talked about it on Dopey a million times. What happened was, when I went to that school, right?
Hunter
Elementary School. 1979. There was a kid in my nursery school, Nick David. His last name started with an M also. And he was one of my very, very best friends. And he was in my core group. He met this woman in college, and they fell in love. And he brought her back to Brooklyn. And somehow in those years, early adulthood, early 20s, he started traveling. I was around. She started hanging out with me. She was a stoner. I was a stoner. I had a job delivering weed around Manhattan, and she would drive me.
Did you always say he could bike?
I bike too, but I got hit by cars a lot when I did it. But
are you able in peace?
It's a miracle. But we wound up, and I was using hard drugs, and we wound up like having an affair. And she left him for me, and we stayed together for like 10 years. And it was so much guilt and shame around.
So much like drama.
It was more guilt and shame. Like, me and my friend just stopped talking. I tried.
You've known each other.
What's that?
You've known each other since 1979?
Since 1979, and we stopped talking. I apologized a million times, and I had decided if I had ruined this brotherhood, I was going to make this relationship with this woman work. But I think I was so corroded, and she's a wonderful person. She's very smart and funny and all these great things. But because of the guilt and shame, like I couldn't live with myself. And I think it kept me using way more. So by the time we were together from, I want to say around 99 to 2009, something like that. No, 99 to 2007, something like that.
Okay, yeah.
But my years are all messed up with drugs. It wasn't until I moved back east and my mother was dying that I broke up with her. And then after my mother died, I reached out to him and me and him became friends again. And I spoke to her a few times. She was one of the people that died. It was my best friend died before Chris died. It's a guy named Todd. And she was very close with Todd too. So we talked around then, but I don't think it's particularly healthy for her, for me, or for my family, for me to have like a real relationship with her. So I don't talk to her too much.
With my father and my grandmother, it's always about going through that veil of what is real fear versus irrational fear and how to coexist with both of them and how to stay in the discipline. As we get older, the ante goes up because there's so much more that we feel as we're invested. So there's that element, the spiritual side, but then you have the social anxiety. There's still the things you have to deal with, friends and family in public spaces and things happening and things going wrong and things going right, and little by little, and then relationships.
Yeah, there are so many things to be scared of.
Yeah, and then that's how the mind just starts projecting onto the world all the what ifs and answering with the worst case scenario.
Yeah, and that's truly, that rattlesnake thing is fully a trial by fire, and I know I would fail that. I was in Thailand at one point, and there were leeches everywhere, and I was like, I am not going forward. I'm not doing it, and a Thai man had to carry me through tall grass to get me to the other side. So I was like, it's not happening. But yeah, I like how you brought up, it's not just like it's the spiritual side, but also like day-to-day things that everyone deals with, like social anxiety, relationship anxiety. I think especially as a culture, we become more aware of how everyone's not neurotypical. Yeah. Like not everyone has just a calm brain, dealing with anxiety, dealing with like all of the triggers of it. How do we do that on a day-to-day basis? And recognize that is irrational fear. Like you said, like coming up with the worst case scenario. And as I was sharing with you earlier, being in a stressful situation where I didn't feel like I had like a footing. And so immediately my head goes to, I'm not actually good at any of this. Like I'm bad. It just starts reverting back. And that's completely irrational.
We're all different. We're 8 billion human beings living life, and we all respond to things and differently. And sometimes what one would consider valiant is that, there's the expression my friend Kirk likes to say, is the juice worth the squeeze? And it turns out to be an old 70s expression. Is the juice worth the squeeze? And it turns out that in certain moments where we consider brave is because all of a sudden there's something that is worth it to us. And we're not thinking twice about it. We jump into it because we want to take care of someone, we want to protect someone, or we wanted to stand up for someone or say something. It's those things that one considers courageous, and even though you're still having fear, for a brief moment, you take that step. You can almost say that's the fight response, like it brings us to action. It's the call to action type of situation. But for me, the most dangerous response we have to fear is freeze. Freeze is the one that, in real fear, if you have rattlesnake in front of you, you will freeze and you don't move so you can let the danger pass, or don't draw attention to yourself type of thing. When irrational fear is in play and freeze comes in, the danger is that we're no longer trusting ourselves. We're no longer trusting ourselves to make a choice. We're no longer trusting to say yes and no to things we want to say yes and no to, because like you were describing, there's an insecurity comes in, a big what if, and it stems from either an old wound, an old condition, an old belief, or something you learned from someone else, and or just simply that sensation of anxiety that comes in that makes you paralyzed, that you can't, everything, you turn into a statue of salt and anything you can't move. And it's in that moment where we begin to doubt ourselves. And to me, that's why it's the most dangerous one of all, because even though fight is violent and fleeing is, you're trying to run for escape, but freeze is the one that makes you doubt yourself so much that you will lose any sense of direction because you don't trust yourself. It's the thing that will make you want to not get out of the house. It's the thing that's going to not even try something because you're already expecting failure and you're expecting the judgment and the pain of judgment. And because judgment is rejection, and rejection is, we're emotional beings. It hurts. So we're anticipating already, like being ridiculed hurts, being judged hurts. So we're not even attempting. So we're not even giving life the chance to say yes or no because we already told ourselves no. And that's sometimes what happens. To me, that's irrational fear clipping my wings and not letting me live life.
Hi, I'm Ricky, recovery support clinician here at Mountainside. For veterans and military families facing addiction or mental health concern, Mountainside is here. We accept Humana TRICARE and are a proud member of VACCN, ensuring accessible, high-quality care. Our specialized programs and staff with military experience understand your journey, providing the target support for healing and recovery. If you or a loved one needs help, please call 860-824-1397.
Yeah, and I like how you brought up, like with fear, when you decide something is valiant or you decide something you want to do, you're able to kind of bypass that freeze and get into it.
Mm-hmm.
I know if it's someone else is dealing with a crisis, I'm able to like go, especially working in a healthcare setting and working in settings previous to this that were more acute, where it's suddenly like there's blood everywhere and I have to deal with it. Like I have to, or something terrible could happen. And in those moments, I'm able to like go get things done, period, like be efficient about it.
Yes.
But then and this is why my fiance says, he says, you know, the movie, The Brave Little Toaster?
Yes.
He's like, you're either the brave little toaster or you're so scared, the most scared anybody has ever been. And it's like in situations like that, I can go and be there.
Yeah.
But then I'm like, oh my God, I have to go somewhere. And what if everybody's looking at me? And then I'm so scared.
And the thing about it is that in those moments, as a gut check, because part of the healing requires the willingness to accept it. You know, it's conditional love only sees what it wants to see, and unconditional love is the willingness to see the whole of it, which also means you accept a shadow self just as much as the light, using woo-woo words there. But it's a moment where you acknowledge, you know, this is my truth. I'm feeling scared. I'm feeling anxiety, and it's okay. You know, like most of the time we try to hide and pretend to be something we're not because we're afraid of the judgment. We're afraid of someone calling us whatever word that chastises someone or judges someone.
Hands.
Yeah, which hands.
Which hands.
Yeah, chicken or cobarde or whatever. It's those words that, like, we're pushing ourselves on a limit, but it's not because we want to. It's because we're trying to avoid a judgment, and we force this. And there's a benefit to that, of course. There's people who push themselves out, but they're still rejecting. It hurts. Like it's still not something that they don't want to do. I kept thinking about the one video about the boyfriend breaking up with the girlfriend because the girlfriend is still pushing him to do roller coaster rides, and he's just mortified, and he breaks up with her right in the middle of it. At that moment, he's like, I'm done pretending to force myself. I'm not comfortable. This is my truth. But it requires that willingness to accept yourself, to shift. You know, it's like, if I don't want to experience that, it starts with, okay, I have this fear, I have this anxiety, and it's okay. Like, since I'm Don Miguel Ruiz Jr., I take things personal. I do make assumptions. Sometimes I'm not impeccable with the word, and sometimes I don't do my best. I accept myself. This is my truth. And I can let go of the image of Don Miguel Ruiz Jr. that's blocking me from the truth. And my truth is, I take things personal, for example. And that's the beginning of acknowledging myself and honoring that part. But I still want to learn how to not take things personal. So I take the steps, and little by little, I take to practice in those moments of choices. In the moment of choice, I can choose to not take it personal because I don't want the hangover of taking things personal. Or not, whatever. Whatever, I confuse myself.
That makes sense. Yeah, taking things personally. Because then it lingers. I'll be laying in bed and I'm like, am I dumb? Like, who cares,
Yeah.
you know?
Oh, and I have it. We all have it.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, like, I've been watching a lot of anime with my daughter. It's kind of like our bond. Like,
Which shows?
Apothecary Diaries. I really enjoy that one.
Okay.
We're watching My Hero Academia.
Yes, I
And
love.
Demon Slayer. I'm planning on seeing it. I may have to see it with my daughter.
So I have
movie.
my hero tattoo. I'll show you after this.
Nice.
First off, and then yeah, Demon Slayer is so good. I've read all of the manga, and my fiance, he's like, I will sleep in the car. I swear to God, if you spoil this for me, because I'm like, wouldn't it be crazy if I just like knew how it ended? And he's like, don't tell me.
Yes,
but I
yes.
want to so bad. I want someone to understand what I've been through.
Yeah, and I remember I've been watching anime since Robotech since I was young. That's my first, Rick Hunter and Lisa, Lin Min Mei and Lisa, and yeah, I guess I'm dating myself. But anyways, what made me start thinking of anime is that in those moments you hear the hero before an action, and they're all thinking, every before any action, they're just talking about it. Oh no, they're going over here. We gotta go get them. But if I don't do it, oh no, and you can hear them talking about this, and it's wonderful narrative, a wonderful story. But in life, sometimes we have that coach inside of us, came through it, but sometimes we don't think about it. Sometimes actually those moments where we actually cross that line, when we push ourselves outside our comfort zone, actually requires no thought. It requires this desire to cross it. And we do. And little by little, we practice that. It's like, it's in sports, they call it the zone. Like, you're aware of everything that's happening. You're not necessarily thinking. You're not narrating what you're perceiving, but you just happen to know what's in front of you and you act accordingly. You're present. So sometimes in facing our fears requires to be present and not let the chit chat block us and feed that fear that stops us from living life or taking that action we want to take.
I was using like gummies and stuff, and they look, and then we'd give you that stuff that you rub on, and it really wasn't doing much.
Like CBT oils, like to rub on.
Yeah, it works for 5 minutes, So anyway, I had this percussion background single worker for me. This man must have smoked a bale of pot every day, right? You could just follow his smell all over the place. So we were in the afternoon, and we were where were we? Ventura, California. Beach kind of town, and we were doing a gig then. It was a beautiful day. He goes, I'm out of papers. You want to take a walk? I said, I will, because I'm going to get some gummies, over there. So I mentioned to the guy, do you have any gummies? And I said, I use them for arthritis. He said, well, you know what? I got an idea for you. So he brings out this little bag with Kratom. The first time I even
heard it, like the smoke shop, or like your vape shop?
Yeah, it was it was like a head shop place. Mostly selling pipes and papers and that kind of stuff, and the gummies and all that. And I can't, Captain something or other it was called, right? And it had this really cool package. And I said, okay, I'll try it. So I bought some, and I used it a few times. I kind of forgot that I had it. And then I went, you know what? Let me try it again. So I started to use it on a regular basis. And if I ran out, nothing happened at all. No withdrawals, nothing uncomfortable. I ran out. I said, this is pretty cool.
Can I talk about, so if you found it at a head shop too, and I know you've been long-term sober from a lot of things, did you think when you picked it up, like, this could be problematic, or it's at a head shop, maybe it could, like, did you have any of those thoughts when you first got it?
I must have had a really naive moment, because it didn't occur to me, because the gummies I'm getting, that's perfectly, I wasn't worried about those, so I didn't really think about that, and so when I started using it regularly, all of a sudden, zero pain. My dexterity was a lot better.
Yeah.
And then as I was using it longer, I noticed, because I'm an ADD poster boy, and I noticed it was like doing that. It was doing anxiety. It was doing all this stuff. And going, holy shit, this is great, and I don't have to worry about ending up in a detox. And
I think that's one of the things that we've talked about before. It's like for a lot of people, they're like, this is what, 4 different pills could do for me. So it's like,
exactly.
why stop then? What happened that made it not workable for you? Or when did you start to be concerned about it?
I was in London. I was there, basically there constantly up until the pandemic. I was spending about 6 months there and 6 months here. So I went over there in January of 2020 when they were just talking about the pandemic. It really hadn't hit the fan yet. Anyway, I brought some with me because I couldn't get it in England.
Yeah.
So I packed some. And so we were doing the gigs and I was using it. Everything was fine. And I ran out, about 2 months after I got there. And nothing happened. No withdrawals, no nothing. Came back to the States 8 months after the beginning of the pandemic. And I bought some. And I started using it again, not even thinking twice about it. Well, about 9 or 10 months later, I ran out one day and I got sick as a dog.
Yeah.
And going,
Like how? What happened? Was it like?
but it was weird.
What was it?
What did it feel like?
Yeah.
I never was an opiate user before. I mean, I was a cocaine, benzos, eating them like M&Ms, and alcohol. That's what I did, right? So I never was a opiate guy. So, but it felt. I was very shaky, kind of similar to alcohol and benzos. Kind of, you're shaky, you're out of it, you're getting sweaty. My head was killing me, and I'm going, this feels like freaking withdrawals. This is impossible. So I got some more, took it, felt fine. I go, okay, here it is. So I kept using it for a while, and then it got to the point where I was going into withdrawals in between doses.
Wow.
So I would use it in the morning as soon as I got up. So I leveled me out, and I wasn't getting high. It made me feel normal. That's when you know. That's when you know. And then at the last couple of months on that really bad run, I would use my morning dose, and 2 hours later, I'm withdrawing. I'm going, this isn't possible. So that went on for about a month, and then I went and went to detox.
How
But it
did you
surprised
know?
me.
Yeah, how did you know? Because we talked about that in the last show you came on that you hadn't done a detox before. But like, what now when you look back, what do you think made this time different? Where you're like, I actually need a medical detox, or I need to go away to get off of this.
Because I knew what alcohol was and I know what could happen, but I haven't had a drink in 40 years, so no issue, right?
Nice.
Cocaine withdrawal is not going to kill anybody. You're just going to get depressed and be in a shitty mood for a week, and then you'll be fine. Alcohol will kill you if you stop dead. Benzos will kill you if you stop dead.
Yep.
I didn't know what was going to happen with this. What if this is like benzos and I end up seizing or something like that? That's why I went. So I went and I looked all over online, and I basically couldn't find one place at that time that even mentioned it. So I called a place, told them what was going on. They knew what it was. And they went in there and they treated it as if I was coming in with a full-blown heroin addiction. So when I left there, it's just worse shape than I was when I went in. So I just started using it again. And eventually, I don't know how much longer after that, and I did another search, and then I specifically put in kratom rehabs, kratom detox, all kinds of keywords, and I came up with Mountainside. And when I got on your site, you guys had the most comprehensive information on what it was, what it did, and the problems it caused, and how they were going to detox it. And that's Mountainside. And then I ended up screwing up at one point and went back last December. I can't even tell you why. I mean, I don't know. I'm an addict.
Yeah.
That's what I do.
I'm Ricky, recovery support clinician here at Mountainside. We offer a healthcare professionals program for physicians, nurses, dentists, and therapists. Our team of board-certified addiction specialists provide discreet, comprehensive treatment for substance use and co-occurring disorders. We're here to help you achieve sustainable recovery with a plan built around your unique needs. Reach out to admissions at mountainside.com for more details.
What were there, like, so you were going to withdrawals like almost every few hours, but were there any other side effects you had from the kratom now that you look back? Because I know for some people, like people turn to it for arthritis, and for some people it causes like severe inflammation, or some people go on it to lose weight, but then it causes like severe gastrointestinal issues. Some people go on it for anti-anxiety, but then they get really, really anxious when they don't have it. Did you have any other side effects when you were using it daily?
Only side effects that I got from that was annoying was you would get constipated, right? No, I didn't get any other side effects. So obviously, when you run out, right, and you start to withdraw from this, yes, you're going to get inflammation and you're going to get pain because that was keeping you from getting inflammation and pain. So, all the good parts of it, as soon as you put the stuff down, all the old symptoms come back like really quick, really fast. And they come back worse than they were in the first place because you're so used to them being under control, And it seems to not be the same for everybody that uses this stuff, which is weird. If you give somebody a Valium, let's say you give 10 people a Valium, 9 of them are probably going to get exactly the same effect from it, or a glass of wine or whatever. But you could take 10 people and give them kratom. You might get 10 different reactions on how they feel from it.
Well, people are using it for so many different things, so many different applications. And then there are such a wide myriad of different like symptoms that people are having. And for you, it sounds like the worst one was the early, like the withdrawal, like going into withdrawal daily. It's like so uncomfortable. What was that like for you to realize that sort of like gotcha moment? Like you'd been sober for so many things for so long.
All of the shame and all the embarrassment and all that you're a loser shit came back. And I went, wait a minute. No, get away from that. Just go get fixed, right?
Yeah.
Now, when I went in December of last year, 2024, right? Leading up to that, when I did go out and use it again, it wasn't working. It worked a little bit for about 3 or 4 days, and then all it was doing was making me feel sick. I felt like crap. I actually felt like I was in withdrawals while I was using it. It just stopped working, period. And so that's when I went back in. I would use it, and like I said, for a couple of days it was perfectly okay, and then it just no. But I think that happens with a lot of drugs that you use long term anyway.
If you or a loved one is struggling with addiction, Mountainside can help. Call 860-365-6764 to speak with our caring treatment team.